When dealing with React Router and an async form submission, it can be difficult to test whether or not the submit form has successfully transferred and redirected you to the exact path that you want. So we're going to take a look at setting up a test that handles this. If we quickly walk through our application, we can see that we have a form with a button that will submit our form. And in our handle submit, we'll prevent default to prevent us from redirecting and posting any data to any particular location. And then we'll do some asynchronous stuff. And then we'll use history.push from React Router to push to our dashboard. The key ingredient here is that we want to know whether or not that this successfully happened and we have pushed to our dashboard. In the case of our catch, where we would catch an error and handle something within this particular form, we will not be at our dashboard. But within a synchronous action, whether you're mocking fetch or not, the end result is that dashboard is pushed to, and that's all that we really care about. So within our app, we're going to need to import a few different things. The first thing that we're going to do is import render from React testing library. We'll also pull in wait for element as well as fire events. Now the concept here is that we will create a fake route that is at /dashboard that we will then navigate to, and then we'll be able to test using React testing library. So rather than using browser router, we're going to import MemoryRouter from React Router DOM. Besides MemoryRouter, we'll also need a route component and our switch component. Finally, we'll need to import the component that we actually want to test. So we'll import app from /app. So the first thing we need to do is set up our render. So we're going to call render. And inside of here, this will render a component. And in our case, we want to render a memory router and then our switch. And within that switch, we need to set up our paths. The first path we need to set up is our initial route. So we'll say route and say exact so that this path match is exactly as we want. We'll say path is equal to / and we'll render our component app. The next step is to set up the path that the app will then redirect to, which is dashboard. So we'll set up route path equals /dashboard. And then we need to set up a fake component that we can then test against. So we'll say component is equal to our fake dashboard and close this off. Because we're referencing a fake dashboard, we need to set up a fake dashboard that we can actually test against. So we'll say const fake dashboard is equal to an anonymous function that will then return a div. And that div will have a data-test ID of dashboard. So with a fake router set up with a switch that will then test whether or not we hit this fake dashboard, we now need to expect that something will happen. So what we can do is use the wait for element, which we have imported from React testing library. This will wait for an element to appear. So if we call wait for element, and render will return some different functions. One of those functions is get by test ID. And what this will do is allow us to scope the search for test IDs based upon the nested DOM that is rendered here. So in our case, we're going to search for this dashboard. So we can say get by test ID, search for the fake dashboard that we have set up. Now if we went ahead and ran this test, we can see that we waited a little bit, ran our getTestById and waited for an element to appear, but it did not appear with the data test ID dashboard. What happened is we have not yet submitted this form to trigger the redirect to /dashboard. So in order to submit this form to redirect and trigger our onSubmit, we need to use fire event. So we'll call fire event. And the event that we want is our submit event. And then we'll use the same get by test ID and look for our submit element. And that submit element is just going to be this button right here. So this is going to search for the submit element. We're going to trigger a submit, which is going to run this particular function. If you have asynchronous stuff that you need to do, then run this asynchronous stuff. And then we're going to wait for our fake dashboard to appear. So now if we switch back to our test, we can see that it's passing because it has run the submit and has found the test ID of dashboard. To prove that, we're going to go ahead and say debug, which will then be a debug function that will then console log whatever the DOM is rendering. We're going to call debug here. And then afterwards, we're going to call debug here. If we switch back to our console, we can see that we go from submit form, and then the second console.log after the submission has happened, we've rendered our fake dashboard with data test ID dashboard. So this is one particular method of ensuring that a submit function that you don't necessarily have access to that is asynchronous has completely run, and then you test the condition, the successful condition of redirecting to a particular route. We can then test that route here and verify that it has successfully redirected.